Overnight, desperate families meeting with the Israeli president. With little news of what Israel this morning now says are at least 222 hostages, including 20 children being held by Hamas. 3 days ago, Americans Judith and Natalie Renan were released.
Just to let it rip and get you out.
A diplomat with knowledge of the talks describing to NBC News intense daily dialogue with many ups and downs. The small Gulf nation, Qatar, is mediating the hostage crisis, talking directly to both Hamas and Israel, we're told. Those conversations gained momentum after Secretary Blinken visited Qatar on October 13th, but went quiet after the Gaza hospital explosion days later. Now, what the diplomat with knowledge of the talks calls an olive branch, the release of Judith and Natalie Renan. A day later, the first trucks of food and medicine allowed into Gaza. Not a trade, we're told, but positive steps. This morning, with Israel warning a full ground invasion is coming, the need to free the hostages, 10 of them US citizens, a pressing diplomatic priority. And how did that diplomat we spoke to tells us that Israelis are not willing to talk until all the hostages are released, but expressed the hope that if Hamas did release the hostages, it may lead to dialogue or even mediation.
I mean, this is what Biden is doing. Biden is suggesting very, like he's trying to talk to Netanyahu about his little ground war there that he wants to have. And he's also trying to talk to Netanyahu about this bombing thing that he's got going on. And he's also trying to talk to Netanyahu about getting aid into Gaza and not collectively punish the citizens of Gaza because they have a government they didn't vote for that is made up of terrorists. Okay? And so Biden is saying to them, look, and the Qataris too, the Qataris are playing a very strange game. A very, 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 very strange game. And soon, the Qataris are going to have to choose a side. Okay, and here's why. Qatar is this very tiny little country. Saudi Arabia had a blockade. Yeah, just, we don't do blockades. And it's just, I didn't see anybody protesting for Qatar. I didn't see anybody advocating for Qatar. I didn't see anybody going, you can't have a blockade on Qatar. Because you didn't know it and you didn't care. But Qatar has had a blockade on it for years from Saudi Arabia. And Qatar also hosts various counterintuitive elements of the world. Okay, so on one side, it hosts a lot of the exiled Hamas leaders. They do in Qatar. And they also send money to Hamas. The Qataris do. But on the other side, they also have our air base there. There's an air base there that they built with their own money for the United States. And it is U.S. CENTCOM, okay? It's Al Udeid. I always think that's the name of it, but sometimes I say it wrong. But anyway, it's like U.S. CENTCOM. And so they play both sides. They play both sides because they're a tiny, teeny, tiny little country in a neighborhood where they're not beloved by the big badass that is Saudi Arabia, who also practices terrorism. We know this because 9/11, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudis, okay? And so if you're literally making peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel, you are making peace with someone who terrorized us and Israel, who has just been terrorized. I don't know why I don't know why this is not being explained to people who want to be right on this issue. I don't know why. But anyway, so Qatar seriously, has an inside game with Hamas. And I'm sure that is why they've been picked to negotiate hostage release on behalf of the United States and the Israeli families who are pleading with Benjamin Netanyahu to please get involved in this effort, but he won't because his attitude as a strongman right-winger, as a Trump, like I said, you have to think of Benjamin Netanyahu as Donald Trump because his whole calling card to the Israelis was, I alone can keep you safe. I alone can fix it. And he failed miserably, and is also being charged with fraud and bribery on top of it. Okay, so it's bad. But he's not involved in this. He's literally saying, that if the hostages are there, well, too bad, we got to avenge. We must go in. We must get rid of Hamas because Hamas's, stated goal, and it is to be a terrorist organization who is going to eradicate from the planet every person, all 9 million Israelis, all of them, 9 million people they want to kill. That is who Hamas is. And there is never a justification. And they're not occupied, by the way. Gaza is not occupied. The West Bank is a whole other story, and we could talk about that. And that is being done, the settlements and the taking of the land that is going on in the West Bank is being done by right-wingers, by lunatics, by Netanyahu's crowd, right? And so everything that the right wing touches dies. Every single thing all the time. It never will get any better because their policies are bad. They're bad for all living things. And so the Biden administration has suggested that when the Qataris speak to Hamas, they say, hey, listen, here's why it's in your interest to give up some hostages. Because it buys you more time from the ground invasion. As long as you're releasing people, as long as you're letting them go, we can actually talk to Biden, and Biden can talk to Bibi and keep him from doing his ground game, his ground invasion, which will have like 360,000 troops against, I don't know how many are left in Gaza. I really honestly don't. I mean, they're basically starving to death. They have no fuel. They have, very limited water, and I'm sure Hamas is fine. I'm sure down in their tunnels, they've been prepping, they've been stockpiling. They're not going hungry. They're not going without water. Their generators are working. It's just the ordinary people that they, terrorize each and every day into never saying anything, never doing anything, never objecting to anything that Hamas is doing, because they will throw you a couple of nickels here and there. They will throw you a couple of, jobs. And that's as good as it's going to get with them. So, I don't understand why people who are so, I'll say keenly attuned to the oppressor and getting very, very angry at the oppressor are missing who the oppressor is. The oppressor in Gaza is Hamas, okay? It is the terrorist organization that oppresses ordinary families, ordinary people. Gaza is not occupied. The borders are sealed, and the border at the bottom is an Egyptian border. So you say to yourself, wasn't Gaza Egyptian land, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Gaza was also Turkish land before that. Then it became Egyptian land. So you say to yourself, well, why won't the Egyptians step in? You know what they say? You know what Al-Sisi said? I don't want to touch it. I don't want anything to do with that piece of land. Go look elsewhere for somebody to take it. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.